Hi, everyone. It is Tuesday morning. I'm Jane Monreal, 9 o'clock here in Charlotte. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Hopefully, you had a nice long weekend to rest and remember and honor those who paid that ultimate sacrifice on Memorial Day. If you are heading back to school or work today, well, in the Charlotte area, we are off to a dreary start. Check this out. This is just nasty, ugly. Ugh, gross. Uptown Charlotte. Not that you're gross, Charlotte, but the weather is kind of dreary. Yeah. But that's what we're going to be dealing with most of the day. So something to prepare for mentally. Get yourself back into the game, heading back to work. It might be just one of those feelings where you're just feeling like, meh, it's a rainy Tuesday, whatever. But it is a short week for a lot of people. So there's that. Just need to keep that umbrella handy. And then do we have the Router 2 traffic-wise? Roads are not too bad as far as your traffic goes. Yeah, not too bad. Carlene's back here.
I'm back.
Yay.
Yay.
You had a pretty restful weekend?
I had a very restful weekend. I hung out with the dogs.
Nice.
And just kind of hung out. It was great.
All right. Well, and look at that. Getting back to work. Everyone's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're going to be all right.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to get you caught up. If you did not stay with us over the weekend here on WCNC Charlotte, yesterday we ran a series of stories in relation to the announcement from CMPD Chief Johnny Jennings, who is going to retire at the end of this year. This is amid so much controversy, including members from City Council, a $305,000 payment in a closed-door session. The state auditor got involved. So much to peel back and unpack. We hope to hear from city leaders sometime soon with the fallout after all of this. So as folks are heading back into the workflow now, our Vanessa Rufus also spoke to the reporter who broke the story, and as well as our Julie Kay, who has been following this really from the beginning. So let's get you caught up here this morning on WCNC Plus. We're going to play this interview for you with Vanessa that aired yesterday.
In breaking news that we've been following today here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, and that is the, I guess, further clarity of what's going on with what we understand understood previously to be some sort of settlement between the city and Chief of Police Johnny Jennings. So we have our Julie Kay, who's been following this saga from the very beginning, joining us now here in the Live Impact News studio with some of the new information we're getting. So I know that we've been kind of referring to this previously as a settlement because we didn't have anything officially confirmed from the city, but now we're seeing this seems to be more of like a separation agreement, and we're actually getting some dollar figures here and more details about the settlement.
Yeah, this is the only real clarification we have gotten thus far. It's a $305,000 agreement, as you mentioned, with Chief Jennings. And I do want to make clear, because I've seen a lot of chatter on social media, this is the same alleged settlement that we've been talking about. This is not a separate, oh, he then decided to retire and now we're paying him more. This is the settlement that we've been discussing, or the payout that we've been discussing the entire time. But we did not know the number figure. We knew it was between $100,000 and $300,000 range. This is $305,000. And what's interesting too is that this actually came from Chief Jennings. It didn't come directly from the city necessarily. The city says he worked directly with the city attorney's office to make sure that he is able to make this announcement. This is what the state auditor was pushing for, that they release this information. But the city is making clear, this is Chief Jennings making this. He decided to be transparent. Of course, at the same time, this is also his retirement announcement. So at the end of the year, he will be done with his tenure as the chief of police. He says he's very proud of the work he's done. In fact, he actually planned to retire earlier, but wanted to help CBD get through some challenging times, he said in a statement last night. So there's a lot of moving pieces to this information that we got today, so we're just kind of sifting through it as the day goes on.
Yeah, and kind of an interesting dynamic too. The news broke over this holiday weekend, and so we're seeing some of the folks who might usually comment on this type of situation. They're kind of pausing as we all observe Memorial Day, and they're basically saying we're not going to comment at this point. So really just trying to piece together what happened. I know that many of us in media ended up getting some of these details from the CMPD chief. Did Jennings indicate why he was going ahead and basically putting this information out himself? Did he indicate that in any sort of communications?
This was an effort, from what I've read, for transparency. And of course, this had been kind of blasted all over the state. As I mentioned, the state auditor was investigating. The state auditor did actually release a statement today. That's one of the few pieces of information we've been able to gather this Memorial Day. State auditor saying this was the right choice, and they will be working with the city and Chief Jennings as they wrap up their investigation. But I do think there was quite a bit of external pressure, and Chief Jennings made it clear that this was coming from him, as did the city. Because per the Personnel Privacy Act, the city cannot, they say, release this information themselves. So that's why they're saying it took a little bit of time between working with Jennings and the city attorney's office to make sure that this was able to be released.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of curious too, because every time we kind of talk about the story, we got to recap how we got to this point, and it's like a long storyline. We've been following this bit by bit, over the last several months, if not a couple of years at this point, if we look back to this outer carrier vest dialogue. Did the chief's communications indicate, how the settlement came about, in the sense of what his complaints were, concerns with either what the city did to him, or, we've heard former Councilman Tark Bakari's name come up in kind of the impetus of the settlement. So was there further clarity on that front?
So that is something that we're still working through, and I'm glad you mentioned Tark Bakari, because he's the one I'm really waiting to hear from, how he's going to react to the chief releasing this information. So as you mentioned, this happened over a year ago now, April 29th last year, the deadly officer shooting here in Charlotte. That's when that both private and public push between Tark and the chief of police was happening. Tark wanted these outer carrier vests for the officers. The chief is pushing back. This was happening publicly, but it was really the private text messages that we thought led to this settlement. And that is kind of the clarity of how did we transition from this alleged settlement being over these, what the chief said was defamatory text messages from Tark Bakari, to this is now a retirement agreement and this is planned. So that's kind of the transition that we are hoping to hear more about from council members. Reaction we're hoping to hear from Tark Bakari, from the mayor. That transition, I think, is going to be really interesting. Tomorrow night is the city council meeting. It got pushed back. Usually it's on Mondays, but of course it's Memorial Day. So I'm wondering what that's going to look like in terms of discussion tomorrow. Last time this kind of came to light at the beginning of the city council meeting, the mayor did address it and said, we're going to move forward. She brought in some other council members to say, this person's going to help me with this, and we're going to figure out how we can be more transparent and cooperative working forward. I'm curious to see if that's going to be something that's addressed tomorrow, but as of right now, I have not heard back from any of the council members that I've reached out to, nor the mayor. The city, as we mentioned, is helping us out today. They are getting back to us, but in terms of the council members themselves, I have not heard any clarification.
Yeah, and I mean, it's important to point out too, this is coming kind of during a tumultuous time for the city overall, because not only have we been dealing with this storyline, with the settlement with the police chief, the state auditor investigation, there have been calls now you've reported on, the mayor's facing some backlash, and then separately we have the whole situation with Councilmember Tijuana Brown, which we've reported on last week. So I mean, there's just like a lot of stuff going on in Charlotte city government, it seems like, to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and at first it was kind of all intertwined. Of course, the calls for the mayor to resign from the GOP, the 12th District GOP, that is in response to all of this with the lack of transparency accusations and the corruption allegations because of this settlement slash payout slash now agreement. That was all related. The situation with Tijuana Brown, where she's now being accused of misusing federal COVID funds, that's entirely separate. So we've got multiple different things going on here, and it's going to be interesting to see how much of it is addressed tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we'll certainly be watching for sure. We'll keep an eye on that meeting. We'll have that for folks here on Live Impact News. There are actually a couple items we were interested in hearing, but yes, to your point, it would be interesting to see if something organically bubbles up, during that meeting regarding this particular situation. So, Julie, remind us when we can see a reporting as folks keep it here on WCNC Plus.
4, 5, and 6 tonight.
All right. Thank you so much for keeping an eye on this, and as always, for stopping by the Live Impact News studio. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll, of course, see you with any new updates, and folks, keep it here on WCNC Plus. Of course, Live Impact News at 4 o'clock transitions to our normal evening newscast, and as you heard from Julie, we'll be having live reports on that and, of course, other news of the day. So on that note, we did want to mention that we are keeping an eye on any new details that will come from this CMPD chief settlement situation. We are expecting to hear in just a few moments from the reporter who actually broke the story. And this is a Charlotte Optimist article that we saw, where not only we had the first details of the separation agreement, if you will, that were released, but also Chief Jennings himself reflecting on the situation and also his time with CMPD, and at a certain point before the creation of CMPD with Charlotte Police, because he has been with the agency, if you will, throughout its various forms for decades at this point. So we wanted to bring in that reporter, Michael Graff, once again with the Charlotte Optimist. Michael, you were the person who broke this story and really answered some questions that a lot of folks were trying to get to the bottom of regarding the settlement, because so far, as we pointed out with the state auditor's investigation, the state auditor himself had noted that a lot of the details were just coming out, piecemeal on social media, and this was like the first confirmation that we had from an official that, there was some money that was settled upon, and now we know a bit more, of course, about the arrangement. So, Michael, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
If you will, because you got a chance to speak with the chief, break down, if you will, his explanation, because he explained to you why he decided to be forthcoming with this information, whereas, as we mentioned up to this point, we had basically been seeing city officials saying, no, this was a closed door session, we don't have to disclose this information. But the CMPD chief sounds like took some steps of his own to make sure that this information got out to the public.
Yeah, I mean, he was certainly concerned with how the story was playing out as it was coming. It was trickling out. Reports were coming out, piecemeal, like you said. It was, and some of it wasn't completely accurate because people were getting it from leaks and things like that. And so I think what he saw, in his words, were, he saw some public trust breaking down, and he thought that, his exact words were something like, releasing this is more important for the public than it is for me to keep it secret anymore. And there were but I don't know that it was purely out of pure instincts. I mean, there was certainly a state auditor's investigation that was about to happen, as announced last week. So there was pressure on that end, and the public. One good thing about the way we have a setup of a system of government is that when the public really, really wants something, it does put pressure on public officials to release it. And I think Chief Jennings spent last week trying to figure out how he wanted to release it. Was it just a press release? Was it a press conference? Things like that. And Chief Jennings, is not. He's comfortable at press conferences, but sometimes I think he thinks that he's not able to tell his full story. And out of nowhere, I heard from them last late Wednesday night, and I had told them, I said, if he would ever like to go on the record and have a longer conversation about it, I would like to do that. But I'm no pressure or anything like that from my end, because I know there were a bunch of other reporters who knew the story far better than I did, and I want to give credit to all of them: the folks at WCNC, the folks at WBTP, SOC, everybody all around town has done or at WFAE has done terrific work reporting on this story. But my venue is more that I can just sit down with people for a long period of time and have 2-3 hour conversations to try to get the full picture. And what I like to do is try to see, what is it in a person's background that informs how they make decisions today, especially our leaders. And in this case, by talking to Chief Jennings about his entire life story, I could almost see how he found himself in this position today, to where he was not. He was brought up in a military family and played football, and there are certain kind of rules of engagement that he has followed his entire life, and those rules don't really apply to social media or to the 2-minute story on the news. And I think he just felt more comfortable sitting down and having a conversation about it rather than just than having a press conference about it.
I mean, I felt like your article was so thorough, to your point of being able to sit down and have a multi-hour conversation with the chief on this matter. There were a couple of really interesting, points that I saw that bubbled up. There was an analogy about, police chiefs in major cities essentially being on a chair basically with a bomb in it. I guess that was the analogy that was posed in your article. Could you elaborate on that analogy? And I mean, it painted a picture of police chiefs realizing that at a certain point they might run into public scrutiny, and then the analogy was that they had to get off the chair before the bomb went off, if you will.
Yeah, so he's part of an organization called the Major City Chiefs Association or organization or something like that. I don't have the exact term in front of me, but he's a part of this organization that only includes chiefs from other big cities throughout the country. And I think he has found them to be, he said, he's found them to be some of the most helpful people he can talk to, because as he put it to me, and I don't think this quote made it in the story, but he said, the only person who knows what it's like to be a chief is another chief. And I think I understand what he meant by that. I have a very close friend of mine, one of my closest friends in the world, was an exemplary officer in the Navy. And he climbed up through the ranks to captain, and his next phase was to become an admiral. And what he saw in that process was going to be a lot of politics. He was going to have to go to DC a lot. He was going to have to deal with that a lot. So what my friend decided to do was retire. Well, Chief Jennings decided to go ahead and step into that arena, and I think that's where the camaraderie comes in with the other chiefs. They understand, whether it's in Dallas, or in Nashville or in Charlotte, they're all dealing with pressure from their officers. They all have thousands of officers underneath them who look to him look to them to lead their organizations. But they're also dealing with the politics of city council folks, and they have to, in order to get funding, in order to get in order to have programs approved and things like that, they have to play the political game and get people on their side and build consensus around among city councilors and the mayor and the city manager and things like that. So I think that's what that sort of small fraternity of people is for him. It's somebody he can go to say, how did you build enough support for this initiative in your local government? And but that analogy did come up, and that's from a very close friend of his within the organization. He didn't name names, but he said, yeah, he said, it feels like we're all sitting in a chair with a bomb on it, and we just hope to get up before it goes off. And, that he's going to get up now.
Yeah, and I guess if we could talk a bit more about that, the other item that I saw, that your article pointed out was the fact that it seemingly the chief had been thinking for a while about retiring, and because of various events that kind of were, I don't want to say out of his control, but that weren't really directly related to him, he decided that he was going to stay, and he ended up staying throughout, a good period of time, and now has come up to the situation where we understand the settlement and the fact that he'll be stepping down, and obviously the timing with all that we know with the state auditor's investigation, et cetera. It appears as though, the timing, is because of all of the public scrutiny, but it sounded like the chief was thinking about stepping down for a while at this point.
Yeah, he had. I mean, there were conversations about his retirement much earlier this year. I know that a lot of city councilors and the city manager had talked to him about it. Chiefs don't last long anymore. He told me that the average tenure of a chief in that major city chiefs association was 2.5 years. It used to be 8 years. So he is now one of the senior members, one of the senior police chiefs in this country, and he's only been here 5 years. But he could have retired actually in 2020 before he even took the job. He had enough service to get his 30 years and to get his pension. He actually had a job offer in Greenville, South Carolina, to become the police chief there. And I don't know how widely that was known locally. The paper there did report it because he was one of the finalists and it was public. But so he had that job offer. He decided to stay here, he said, because he wanted to basically finish his career on the team he started with, just kind of a goal, I guess, of a lot of people who move up in the ranks of the police department. He also wanted to retire. He also was set to, and I don't even want to say wanted, he was planning to retire last year in 2024. And then the terrible events of April 29th, 2024 happened when 4 officers were killed on Galway Drive in East Charlotte. And he decided then, I can't leave this police force now. I have to see this department through it. And so he decided he was going to stay on another year. So yes, I mean, I do think in the back of his mind, there's a part of the chief that is, he's very concerned about he's very thoughtful about his legacy. Concern might be a different word, but he's very thoughtful about his legacy. He thinks about it a lot. I think I could see that in the way he talked about his former college football coaches, actually. He really admired the people who coached him in college, and he thought about their legacy. And so he just sort of sees the world that way, for better or worse. And so I think he also thinks that he's also a fixer, and he thinks that he should stay on to see people through things. And he kept saying in the interview, one thing I've learned is there's actually no good time to retire. There's no good time to say goodbye. And I think one of the things that was very human to me, because I feel like we've all felt that, whether it's you at the station or me in my career at Axios before this or anywhere else. Like, we've all kind of felt that feeling before, like when you leave a place that you like because you have a better opportunity, you want to stay and make sure that the place you're leaving is taken care of. And so sometimes we stay too long. We don't take 2 weeks, we take 8 weeks or something like that. Well, he's done more than that. He's taken an extra 2 years essentially. And it created, not to analyze him too much, but it did create a conflict in his brain where he was saying, I have given up a lot. He can make more money in the private sector. Think about what managers make. He leads a 2,000 person department. So in the private sector, a manager of a 2,000 person department probably makes more than his $280,000 a year salary. And so I think he was thinking, I've given up a lot for this police force. And there's a part of him that just kind of felt burned about how the past year has played out. Um,
I mean, speaking of that feeling, I guess, of being burned, the way you put it, being burned, did he reflect at all on, whatever it was, the ultimate words, actions, decisions that led him into this settlement? Because I know we talk a lot about the text messages between him and former Councilman Tark Bakari, and I saw in the article the fact that he said it wasn't about the text messages. He said it was about something different. So what did he tell you?
Yeah, he said it was about defending the future police chiefs and future department heads. Charlotte is very clear in how it's set up in the system of government. Their city manager reports to city council, so do two other positions. But city council is effectively the city manager's boss, and that's Marcus Jones in this case. All the other department heads report to Marcus Jones, the city manager. And so he's a very rules of order type of person, and I think I know he felt like he was in a position to where he wanted to take an action, whether it had, it's very debatable whether it had much basis in the lawsuit would have had much basis in court at all. I've gotten several emails to say that he would have had no leg to stand on in court. But what he felt was that he was sort of being attacked by a former city council member who was currently a city council member when all this happened. And his direct quote was, "I was in a position to say, we can't keep doing this. We can't. I had to look at the next chief, other city leaders. And it's unfortunate that we're even talking about this right now," he said. "But I want to make sure that when you hire a leader to run a certain department within our city, then you have to let them run the department." And so, that is really what it came down to. And there's room for disagreement on whether that was enough, that should have been enough for him to threaten legal action against the city. Ultimately, the courts would have had to play that out, and instead, the city signed an agreement with him, or a settlement with him, in which the city admitted no fault of its council member or of anybody on the staff, and Chief Jennings got his severance package essentially in various forms. This $305,000 settlement.
Now, I mean, we've reported here on Live Impact News and on TV on WCNC Charlotte the fact that FOP actually just started today. It's no confidence voting, so that's happening in person at their lodge and also online. And we've pointed out the fact that this is a largely symbolic vote. But I mean, did he comment anything on that? Whether he felt like he could be losing the confidence of the men and women he leads? Did he reflect on that at all with you?
Not publicly, he wouldn't have. I mean, we talked about it for a long time, but no, he never said, I've lost the confidence of people in the rank and file or anything like that. I think the way he explained it, he said there are a lot of officers who actually, the controversy comes down to vests, outer carrier vests, and he says, there are a lot of officers who don't want them, and you just don't hear from them. And so that's his perspective on it, and that's what he presented to me. He never named, he never said a bad word about the FOP. He never spoke former City Councilman Tarek Bakari's name. He never mentioned his name. He only called him a former councilman or something like that in my interview. So no, he didn't take any shots at anybody else in the interview directly, I would say. And I think
brought up the fact that
I was just going to say, he knows that his officers are part of that FOP, and so, he would never, I don't think, knowing Johnny Jennings now like I do, there's nothing there, he would never take a public shot at them, I don't think.
Now, you brought up before the fact that he appears to be, as you put it, thoughtful about his legacy. What did he tell you as far as what he thinks or maybe hopes that his legacy will be here for the city of Charlotte over, I guess, his time as leading of the police department in the last few years?
Yeah, focuses a lot.
And we are going to put a pin in that previously recorded conversation between our Vanessa Rufus and Michael Graff, the reporter who broke the story about Chief Johnny Jennings announcing his retirement over the weekend. We're coming up on 9:30 this morning. It is a Tuesday morning, and we want to talk about heart disease. I have a special guest this morning with heart disease remaining the leading cause of death in the U.S., affecting millions of people over the age of 55. But right now, groundbreaking research could change how millions of Americans approach heart disease prevention. So joining us this morning is Dr. Matthew Budoff, a cardiologist and professor of medicine at David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. Thanks for joining me this morning, Doctor. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to just start with basics, Doctor. When most people think about heart disease prevention, we think about diet, exercise, maybe a little cholesterol medication. But your research is focusing on reducing inflammation. How does that go?
Yeah, so, over the last decade, we learned that inflammation, of course, is bad. When you have arthritis, you get inflammation. You can get inflammation in different body parts. But when it gets into the coronary arteries, it can cause heart attacks and strokes, and it can promote plaque buildup. So we've been studying this and now learning that by treating the inflammation in the arteries of the heart can actually help reduce your cardiac risk.
I mean, it sounds so promising, Doctor. So for those who might be hearing this for the first time, what is happening then with our arteries inside when inflammation does present itself?
Yeah, so, we have this plaque buildup, and that might be from genetics, from, mom or dad having heart disease, or it might be from blood pressure or cholesterol or diabetes. But once you have plaque building up in the arteries, inflammation can kind of feed that process and make it worse. So we want to understand if you have that inflammation, and then we can potentially use, very simple once-a-day medicines to help reduce your risk of heart disease by treating the inflammation.
So how do you know if inflammation, if inflammation is one of those major causes for some of your health ailments?
Yeah, so you really have to get a blood test. It's very simple. It can be done at the same time that you go for your cholesterol check or your blood pressure medicine check or your hemoglobin A1C if you're checking your diabetes. They can add this blood test to the panel and find out if you have inflammation.
And if you're talking about medication, if people are already taking a statin or some cholesterol lowering medication, how does inflammation fit into that place? And what's your research finding now with this medication that could lower inflammation?
Yeah, so we think one of the benefits of statins is that it also not only lowers cholesterol, but it helps with inflammation. But this additional therapy, what we studied, colchicine, just 0.5 milligrams low dose at once a day, can help further reduce inflammation in the arteries around the heart and reduce the plaque buildup over time so that you're not heading down that road of heart attack or stroke or bypass surgery.
It almost sounds too good to be true. How does one go? I've never even heard of colchicine, but what is this exactly, and what can patients do to try to advocate for themselves?
Yeah, colchicine's actually a very old therapy. It's been around for a long time. We use it to treat gout, one of the arthritis that can affect the toes, and sometimes that can be quite severe. And colchicine has been used for decades to treat gout. Now we learned at a much lower dose, which is safer and better tolerated, it can also help treat the inflammation around the arteries in the heart. So that's really where we're focusing our attention now, is to try to reduce that inflammation in the heart and really hopefully improve people's long-term heart health.
And this can work alongside a statin or cholesterol-lowering medication, right? What should people be aware of as far as other side effects if they're looking to research this seriously?
Yeah, I mean, the only side effect that we see, and it's usually very mild, is diarrhea. It can, but because this is such a low dose, that's fairly infrequent. So just keep in mind, if you look up colchicine, to look up low dose colchicine. This is 0.5 milligrams once a day. For gout, we use more than double that. So there's more side effects when we use it at higher doses for gout.
Okay, very good. And who is the ideal candidate then for this?
So I think, people who have early heart disease, people who have plaque building up in their arteries, maybe they got a heart scan, or they were told by their doctor that they're at high risk of heart disease. This might be a good opportunity to look for inflammation. And if it's present, to then think about treatment and talk to your doctor about this as another treatment option for yourself.
And beyond medication, what do people need to start thinking about in their daily lives in conjunction with all of the health awareness that we need to have?
Yeah, I mean, and I think, you mentioned at the beginning, but we have, diet is important. We got to keep an eye on our weight, and we got to keep an eye on our, eating better foods in general, like maybe the Mediterranean diet, or there's different diets that might be helpful for your heart. And then we also want to remember exercise is a key component here, that we really want to make sure that we're getting in our steps or doing something that's more active. It's good for the heart, because the heart's a muscle. It likes to exercise. It gets stronger, but it's good for the brain. It's good for the joints. So exercise is critical.
All right. What's good for the body is good for the mind and everything else. What's next in this field as far as the future, and what other questions do you need to look into?
Yeah, so we're doing more trials. They're ongoing already. Our trial, what we call the Ekstrom trial, looked at plaque progression, and we showed that low-dose colchicine slows down the progression of plaque in the arteries. Now we're looking at more larger studies to look at heart attack risk reduction, at reducing strokes, at reducing cardiac death. So there's more data coming out, and there's a lot of studies that have been done and a lot more that are being done.
All right, very good, Doctor. And anything else that we haven't covered that our viewers and listeners should know about?
Well, no, I would just say that if they want to learn more about our trial or about the inflammation and how they can learn more about it, there is a website, cvdinflammation.com. So all one word, cvdinflammation.com, and I think that'll help give them a little more information to maybe bring back to their doctor and talk to them about other opportunities for good heart health. Just keep in mind, for men and women, the number one cause of death in the United States is still heart disease. So we gotta keep this on the top of mind when we talk about cardiac risk factors.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us this morning. Important information for people, just overall health. I mean, in 55 should be is the new 35.
Right, that's right. And 70 is the new 55.
There we go. Let's keep it going. All right, colchicine. We're going to be hearing a little bit more about that. Dr. Matthew Budoff from UCLA. Good information there. As we bring it back out here now to the Live Impact studio. That was a lovely picture of you, Carlene. Dr. Budoff said, I need to go to my next interview. Yes. We're going to keep this information train going here at 9:37 Tuesday morning. And if you are in the Charlotte area, wow, we have just got some really miserable weather. Take a look at this, first of all. That's uptown. That's happening right now.
Ew.
It is a total ew. And
I'll
so
say it. It's ew.
it is ew. That's why we're bringing in Becca Birdsall right now into
Becca's
the Live
not ew.
Impact
Becca's
studio.
beautiful.
No, yeah, let's clear that up. Becca is wonderful and beautiful, great color.
The opposite of
Someone needs to bring the sunshine in here
Right.
because, wow, with that picture, Becca, what are we looking at for today?
Miserable is definitely the word of choice. We had some rain move in overnight, and it's just been this consistent light to moderate rain out there from the mountains extending all the way into the metro. And this is all due to that Carolina wedge system that we typically see in early spring or towards the fall and winter times, where it really just locks in all of that moisture against the mountains, creating lots of cooler air and lots of clouds and lots of moisture. So that is what we are expecting for the rest of today. Of course, the weather impact window, we're looking at basically the heaviest portion of the rainfall to occur from now all the way to around 2-3 o'clock. After that, it's going to be a little bit more scattered and mostly light in nature. And while you may not be seeing rain directly on your radar at your location, it will likely be misty all day, indicating that it's just going to be a washout of a Tuesday. It's also just going to be chilly, and temperatures for the most part are going to be staying in the 50s and 60s. So Doppler radar, we've got a widespread rain right now happening from portions of the mountains, Piedmont, all the way down into the sandhills. And where you see some of the darker yellows and oranges, that is indicative of some more moderate to heavy rainfall. Right now, a little bit more moderate as we go up towards Iredell County alongside 77 from Statesville to Morrisville. And this is pushing over towards Salisbury. And then for our basically east of Charlotte, you can see some of the darker oranges. That is impacting Ansonville, Wadesboro, just portions of Anson County, and this will be pushing over towards Rockingham as well. Our South Carolina counties, we're getting hit with some heavier downpours as well, especially over towards York and Chester, portions of Rock Hill, and this is continuing to drift up to the northeast over towards Mecklenburg County. This is all part of a larger system, low pressure system, basically sitting off to the west of us, and this is producing showers and storms all across the southeast, even some severe thunderstorms, especially over towards Mississippi and Alabama. And this is going to be the same system that continues to head in our direction over the next several days, which is why, even though today's going to be a washout, we're still going to continue to get some additional rounds of rainfall over the next several days. Now, we approached a record this morning, but it was a record cold high temperature. That record cold high was 60 degrees back in 1901, and we hit 61 degrees is going to be our high temperature, and we hit that at midnight. Temperatures have been cooling down ever since in the 50s, and that's where we're going to stay for much of the afternoon and evening. So outside now, 56 in Charlotte, 54 in Lincoln, 53 in Hickory, 48 over in Boone. This is the temperature that we're pretty much going to stick with for the entire day. So not only is it damp, but it's also chilly, and you can see that 24-hour temperature change showing that story anywhere from 10 to even 13 degrees colder than this time yesterday. Got lots of low clouds and fog setting up. It has just been a nightmare out on the roadways. Some of the poorest visibilities out there, anywhere from 1 to 2 miles. So definitely exercise some caution as you head out there. We'll hang around the low clouds and fogginess throughout the afternoon and evening, likely picking up tonight into early tomorrow morning. So patchy dense fog, certainly a possibility to start off your Wednesday. For today, again, washout start to finish. May see temperatures budge just a little bit by a couple of degrees, but overall, all of us staying in the 50s. So over the next 36 hours, surface map showing that low pressure system eventually driving in that warm front across the area, and that's going to erode the Carolina wedge eventually by Wednesday afternoon and evening. Now you'll notice though, temperatures start to warm up, especially for the second half of Wednesday. We'll be back near normal in the upper 70s, and we'll also have the chance for a few scattered showers and thunderstorms. So futurecast, again, rain mostly heavy from now all the way till about 2-3 o'clock, starts to pull off east of 77, and as it does so, another band of showers quickly replaces it, and this is going to again last all day for today. That last band of rain comes late tonight into early Wednesday morning. I'd say by daybreak on Wednesday, most of this is already pulling off, and then Wednesday afternoon, like I mentioned, as that wedge erodes, have a chance to see a couple of thunderstorms in the forecast, although this is going to be a little bit more hit or miss. Certainly not everyone will be seeing them. I'd say Thursday and Friday look to be a little bit more active in terms of thunderstorm activity, especially as this next cold front starts to move along. So Wednesday on par with that. We are under generally a low threat for severe storms, but that is a level 1 out of 5, and that yellow shading down to the south. Generally though, heavy rainfall and some lightning is going to be our main concern, as well as some gusty winds. So again, this continues into Wednesday, potentially seeing that storm risk pop up for Thursday as well. Rain chances peak for today. They'll likely go down to about a 20% chance for Wednesday, then back up to 40 and even 60 on Friday. So it is going to be a wet end to the work week as well. before a drier and much nicer weekend ahead. So high temperatures today, very cool, lower 60s. We basically already hit that this morning. Then we're going to be warming up to the upper 70s by Wednesday and near 80 by Thursday. And as we get that rain cold air on Friday, going to cool down to the middle 70s before we see those warmer temperatures just in time for the weekend. So lower 80s for this upcoming weekend and lots of sunshine in the forecast. So while it is wet and cold today, it is only one day of that. A couple of more additional rounds of rain to get through this week before a nice sunny and warm weekend ahead. And it will be feeling a little bit more like the end of May.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, I guess we got to get to the weekend. The weekend is what counts anyway. Might as well just work. Might as well work with all this rain. Be inside, be productive.
Yes.
Or take a nap. All right, Becca, we're good with the drought monitor then, I assume.
Oh, this month our
For
drought
sure.
has greatly improved. And
That's
with this
good.
additional round of 1 to 3 inches of rainfall, we'll likely see that completely eliminated across much of the area.
And like I told Chris yesterday, we just enjoy these cooler temps now because
Exactly.
summer is going to be summer.
It's going to be knocking on our door very soon.
Yes, and we'll be wishing for the cold, rainy
Exactly.
morning, I suppose. I don't know. Carlene's always about the hot weather. Yeah, I agree.
I like
I'm-
my
I'm
cooler
with you.
days.
How about just, cool, crisp, and 75 forever? But whatever. We have variety here. 4 seasons in the Carolinas. We
Yes.
love it. Okay, Becca Birdsall, thank you for joining us here in the Live Impact studio. Nice to see you, bringing a little bit of yellow, sunshine, those last few days of spring. All right. Let's go to some news now. This is, I'm not going to call it breaking news. There was a crash. It looks like this is in the Charlotte area. And Noda. Okay. So this is near Noda, North Tryon, and 16th Street.
Yes.
Our Mason, photojournalist extraordinaire, is on the scene bringing us this live picture right now. You can see the school bus is not blocking the way. Traffic is able to get through. It's pretty
There's
much
2
cleared.
lanes right here. I drive this
Okay.
every day. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I know this area pretty well.
All
So-
right,
So,
so-
driving towards Noda.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right. We don't know if there are any passengers or students on that school bus, but it looks like a police unit just pulling up to the scene as well. And wow, with the rain, just kind of a gross morning. Hopefully everyone's okay on that bus. We will bring you more information as we learn more. The bus still there, and the bus is on the move.
It's on the move.
All right, so there you
There we
have it. Not. It looks like it is able to move on its own power. What do you know? All right, so there you have it. Live picture. Thank you, Mason. North Tryon at 16th near Noda. So now lanes are going to be open for you.
Woo!
There's your live picture, and there you can see how the rain is falling
Yep.
through the Noda area
Yep.
in Charlotte. All right, we're bringing these pictures here live on Live Impact News because that is what we do. Sometimes it's not coming in so smoothly, but as it comes in, we are just bringing it to you on Live Impact News. We appreciate you downloading the WCNC app to your Roku TV, maybe your Fire TV or Apple TV, and that way you keep it on, tell your friends and family, and you can watch for free, and we bring you the news as it happens. Right now, I want to take you out live to D.C. This is the Pentagon, I understand, right, Carlene? This is Secretary Hegseth holding an enhanced honor accorded with the Polish Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defense. Secretary Hegseth standing alert and being greeted by military delegation there, ready to greet the Polish Deputy Prime Minister. Let's see if we can listen in live and see if there's any audio.
Looks like you've got to greet them, yeah.
Okay, all right, let's just take a look at this here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. Everyone's smiling. All right, Secretary of Defense Hegseth there greeting Polish leaders at the Pentagon in D.C. this morning with both of their national anthems played. Want to get you caught up with some international and national news. This is somewhat breaking. President Trump and Vladimir Putin, Russia's president counterpart, I should say, agreeing this morning to an exchange of prisoners. That is what Russia's foreign minister has said just hours ago. He said, quote, President Trump is a man who wants results. That was from Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov saying in Turkey and claiming that Trump's efforts were being, quote, sabotaged by some of the European countries as he referred to ongoing efforts to reach a ceasefire in Ukraine. But again, we are hearing this morning that President Trump and Vladimir Putin agreeing to an exchange of prisoners. Also breaking this morning, NPR suing President Trump over the executive order cutting federal funding. The president has said that he will cancel $100 million to Harvard and potentially transfer that to trade schools in the U.S. We have NBC's Bianca Ficini. She's in Washington with the latest.
Absolutely crazy. Emotional. These are the terms U.S. President Donald Trump and the Kremlin use to describe each other these days. The war of words erupting days after Russia launched several deadly attacks on Ukraine.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin.
Following the president's comments, a spokesperson with the Russian government said Trump might be dealing with, quote, emotional overload. It's a significant shift in tone from just last week, when Trump had a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin that he said went, quote, very well, and included discussion on ending the conflict with Ukraine for good. Meanwhile, Ukraine says Russia launched over 700 missiles and drones Sunday, killing at least 18 civilians, including children. One Ukrainian resident says, let the world wake up and see. How long can they bomb children? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is urging the U.S., Europe, and, quote, all those around the world who seek peace to impose sanctions on Russia, writing on X that they would serve as a guaranteed means of forcing Russia not only to cease fire, but also to show respect. But Putin isn't the only leader Trump currently has harsh words for. On his website, Truth Social, the president writes, President Zelensky is doing his country no favors by talking the way he does. Everything out of his mouth causes problems. I don't like it, and it better stop. In Washington, Bianca Ficini, NBC News.
And that report filed early this morning, again, the update now from, according to Russian Foreign Minister, that President Trump and Vladimir Putin agreeing to at least a prisoner exchange. The details on that have yet to be released. Get you back into the Queen City now. There was an interview from our morning team, Kaylin Hagwood and Lisa Washington. They interviewed the city planning team on the Urban Design Center. Apparently some updates coming from the uptown Charlotte area. Let's get you caught up here. If you missed it earlier on WCNC Plus, we'll play that for you now. And it ran around 8 o'clock this morning.
Creating more welcoming, vibrant spaces in Charlotte. That is the goal of a new city-led effort to give away free furniture to local communities.
Well, it's all a part of a push to reimagine how public spaces are used and enjoyed. And joining us now to explain how the project works is Charlotte Kuskavier, Planning Project Manager with the Urban Design Center. Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So if you could just start by telling us a little bit about the Urban Design Center and the work that you all are doing in the community.
Of course. The Urban Design Center is located within the City of Charlotte's Planning Department. Our mission is to advance the quality of Charlotte's built environment and bring public awareness to the importance of urban design. We do that in a few ways, but one of them is placemaking. And this is transforming underutilized space into vibrant places for people, and really using and collaborating with the people who will use that space to make it happen.
And so this is a new initiative. We want to know, what's the inspiration behind donating free furniture to enhance these community spaces?
Yeah, we completely revamped our placemaking hub, and this is a guidebook that empowers residents to design, install, and maintain their own public space projects. So we wanted to get the word out about this new tool and empower communities to improve their shared spaces quickly and creatively. And this was a great way, we thought, to get the news out about the tool. There's no lack of ideas, but sometimes something as small as, having a bench available can really help move a project forward.
And Charlotte, I feel like maybe you touched on this just a little bit, but what kind of furniture will be given away and where is it all coming from?
Yeah, we have commercial quality furniture that's been built and designed for the wear and tear of public spaces. It's all either in a fun color or a really innovative design, so we've been calling it furniture. We've got bistro sets, benches, picnic tables, and Adirondack chairs. This furniture is being donated by 4 companies who believe in the importance of placemaking and, access to community gathering space. They will donate it and are partnering with us. It's Landscape Forms, Lowell, MCT, and Vestry. So we're very thankful for them.
And the furniture, or furniture as you call it, really can make the difference. It can be a moment in the space. How do you determine which spaces are eligible to receive the furniture?
Yeah, eligibility is going to be really easy. We're looking for shared community spaces. These spaces can be privately owned as long as they are publicly accessible. We're really going to be looking at access and the impact that we think your idea could have.
And how does placemaking and something as simple as furniture impact the way people interact with the city?
Yeah, placemaking allows people who live in the area to really take the reins in designing it themselves. This really strengthens the connection between people and the places they share. There are so many spaces that we pass through every day without giving it a second thought. Adding something like a piece of furniture lets people know that, they're allowed to be there and they can linger and get to know each other.
And you mentioned that the places can be either public or privately owned. What's the application process to get some of this furniture?
We'd like for everyone to post a photo or a video on Instagram or Facebook of where they'd like to utilize this furniture and tag the Urban Design Center at CLT Urban Design. And then there's a quick application at charlottenc.gov/placemakinghub. This application is really just asking for contact information, the address of your location, and why you think it's a good location. What difference will it make? And make sure you're following us and that your posts are viewable.
All right, Charlotte, where can people go to learn more about this initiative?
Yeah, they can go to charlottenc.gov/placemakinghub.
Wonderful. Charlotte Cuskevier with the Urban Design Center. Thank you so much for joining us and telling about this new initiative.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
All right, being creative with some public spaces. Good luck to you if you are interested in that. Our Michelle Bowden covered a story with some of the popular Charlotte-based clothing lines, but right now, a designer and local mother of 3 says that she's navigating these tariffs being the talk with some big questions and other concerns. So let's share Michelle Bowden's story here on WCNC Plus.
Renata Gasparian just opened this brand new boutique and was looking for other ways to grow her brand when she was hit with some unexpected and very high costs to get her goods out of customs.
Yeah, let me zip it up for you.
Renata Gasparian moved to Charlotte from Brazil and quickly got noticed.
We're a little bit more casual. And everywhere I went, people would always compliment me on my outfits.
So in early 2020, she started designing her own clothing line using fabrics in a factory in India.
It's a mix of what I say, my Brazilian soul, with a touch of Southern charm.
She officially launched her brand, Renata by Renata Gasparian, in 2020.
It's cute, isn't it? When I started from my house in my bonus room. And the world, when the world shut down is right when I started.
After the pandemic, she moved into a showroom and just last month into a brand new retail space on East Boulevard, only to get hit with another blow.
It took us a much longer time to receive the product. They didn't really even know, like in the customs, they were a little bit unsure of how to release the shipment. So this is a new style, it's a new design.
The only way to get her designs? Pay more.
We have seen the cost go up. We did see a big impact in that, a big difference, and we were like, oh my goodness, this is a lot. Yeah. Absolutely gorgeous.
Renata co-owns the business with her dad, Nelson Gasparian. The two regularly make trips to India together, and now we're trying to figure out if they'll have to raise prices to cover the rising costs.
Too early for us to say anything. Too early. We don't know if this is the final or if there are other things coming up that we are not aware of. And we have already seen, tariffs that went up, then went down, then went up again. So we don't know what's the next step.
The father-daughter duo were hoping to grow their brand with more retail options, but right now, like so many other small businesses, they've decided to take a wait-and-see approach. Reporting in Charlotte, Michelle Bowden, WCNC Charlotte.
And we're going to keep on this all-female story with Memorial Day, of course, passing yesterday. There's more of a story with an honor for women who were served in the military. They are alive today and with us, and they were able to take an honor flight to Washington, D.C. They said it was a long time coming. Here's their story on WCNC+.
We have been invisible to each other. We've passed each other on the street, maybe seen each other in a restaurant or a department store, and didn't really know our full story. And it's time to give our story out and be proud of it.
That's what UP Woman of Valor is all about. Coming together.
I'm on it with all my service sisters just to come to Washington, D.C. to be proud of the time I served.
Sharing experiences.
I'm meeting a lot of powerful, strong women, and we all have different backgrounds and different stories, different military experiences.
Finally feeling seen.
It feels good to be seen and noticed. We get looked over a lot.
When several of these women served, as a country, we didn't always know how to honor women veterans. Susan Holliday first joined the Woman Army Corps, then the Army Nurses Corps. She served our country for 22 years. Holliday recalls a time when she was in a group, mostly of men, shortly after she was promoted to major. A time when women were not seen as equal.
The old majors who were instructing us said, well, we have to just give men time to deal with women. And I kind of raised my hand really quick with a kind of a smart answer and said, well, don't they have wives and mothers and daughters and sisters? And those necks just snapped at me like they'd never thought. Why do we have to give men time to get used to us being in leadership positions or being in the military or being in every specialty that's being offered to women?
But we're learning and taking steps forward. An example of that came at the Military Women's Memorial. Every veteran's name and service was announced.
Captain Lee Ann Peterson, U.S. Air Force 89 to 2011.
Their service was entered into the Memorial Archive, forever documenting their stories for future generations to see.
I know that we sacrificed a lot of family time for service, but I don't regret any minute of it. And I love them, and I love you all.
The women on the honor flight tell me they're surprised at just how many female veterans there are here in the UP. And now when they see each other, they'll know who they are.
They're not invisible to me. When I see their faces now around Marquette, I can say, hey, honor flight 26.
Because to be seen is to be loved.
Hope they enjoyed their flight to our nation's capital. Right now, we want to talk about something that's it's the national story. It's our housing market, right? People are getting into a buying mode, potentially, a lot of them sitting on the fence. So the housing market across the country is definitely rippling into the Charlotte area. Even with all of the growth, we have high inventory, but high interest rates as well. So what does that mean for your buying or selling needs this spring and summer? We talked to David Hoffman from Hoffman Realty yesterday. If you missed it yesterday, this is that interview that ran, and we'll get you caught up with the home market on WCNC. While home inventory has reached its highest level in about 5 years, buyers seem to be staying on the sidelines. So an unusual dynamic here, sort of reshaping the real estate market across the country. Want to bring in now David Hoffman of David Hoffman Realty. Thanks for joining us, David. And really what this means for both buyers and sellers in the Charlotte area and really across the country, because this seems to be a shift, isn't it? How did we get here?
Yeah, absolutely. The pandemic, Jane, and thank you for having me. Inventory is at a 5-6 year high, but a lot of buyers are still priced out of the market. You know, economists thought that April was going to be one of the highest Aprils in 10 years, and actually it was the lowest April since 2009. It actually went down 2% over last year when they expected it to be up 2.7%. And the reason for that is there was a lot of inventory that has been hitting the market, like you said, which you would think would give options for buyers. The challenge is this inventory is hitting the market at pandemic pricing. So during the pandemic, when pricing was supposed to go down because it was so high in 2019, it just kept going up, and a lot of those sellers have not put their homes on the market until now. So they're trying to get 21, 22 pricing in 2025.
I see.
And rates went through the roof. And so you had low inventory during the pandemic, right? Low supply, pushed up demand. People couldn't leave their home. That pushed demand up even higher. And people couldn't sell their home because they had nowhere to go. And now you have all this inventory, but rates have tripled. And so what's happening is prices are falling. People expected that the market was going to pick up this year. We've talked about this, how prices were going to fall, and they are falling. So you take a $750,000 home right now, it probably should be about $650,000. And so the buyer during the pandemic was willing to pay $750,000 with a 2.5%, 3% rate, but at 6.5%, 7%, 7.5%, they don't have that tolerance for that high price point.
Okay, so that's what's making them hesitate then.
Yeah, it's a combination of prices not falling after the pandemic because there was no inventory to allow that to happen, and then rates tripling. And so even if someone wanted to pay the $750,000 price point, the 7% rate makes that home only worth $650,000. So you're starting to see home prices fall across the board.
So with spring, summer being that buying season, right? How does this compare then to last year, and what needs to move the scales here in either direction, whether it's for buyers or sellers?
Yeah, so not only are April sales down the lowest in 16 years, but April sales were down 0.5 point from March, when, Jane, April is supposed to be one of the hottest months of the year.
Right.
March goes to April, then May, then June. And lastly, sales are down almost 27% year over year, almost 30%. And so what's happening is many buyers are hoping that rates would fall this year. They have not. And many buyers hoped that the additional inventory would bring down pricing, but it is not. But pricing will fall down. It has to.
All right. What are you looking for a time frame?
Almost real time, Jane. So, we're in late May now. We're getting ready for the summer. And what's happening is inventory is at a 5-6 year high. A lot of those sellers have to sell. A lot of those sellers are relocating, they're downsizing. They already bought their next home. They need that equity before it's too late. And so the good news is, compared to 2009 and 10, most people have equity. The bad news is for buyers, they need those sellers to take a little bit less of it so they can afford the home. So sellers are starting to drop their prices. So I see this summer that prices will fall as inventory hits, supply will keep picking up. And the good news is buyers are on the fence ready to buy. But if rates are not going to fall, which they're not anytime soon, they need prices to come down. And most sellers will drop because A, they have to sell, and B, they have a lot of equity they can afford to sell.
And are we seeing this across? We are going to break away from that recorded interview on the housing market and take you live right now to the Pentagon with Defense Secretary Hegseth meeting with Polish leaders and and the defense. So let's listen in here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
8,000 stationed rotationally and some permanently in Poland. I had a chance to talk to our troops there, and they could not be more grateful for the reception and the support that they receive, which is ongoing, not just financially, but in sort of the political and populist support for American troops. That partnership is as strong today as it's ever been. And so from the leadership of the United States, from President Trump, from the Defense Department, thank you for that support. Our close partnership, we're as close now as we've ever been, and we look forward to getting closer. And we welcome you here to the Pentagon. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I'm very glad to be here in Washington, D.C. today and to continue our productive dialogue. We have reached a pivotal moment in the history of enduring alliance between Poland and the United States. Strong Polish-American relations are reflected in many recent meetings on various political and military levels. In today's rapidly changing world, security challenges have become more serious, complex, and interconnected than ever before. That's why we fully support President Donald Trump's administration's efforts to achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. We are sure, and our broad defense cooperation is the best proof that the United States of America remains the guarantor of global stability and development. I'm also certain that it was necessary to send Europe a strong message, a strong signal for burden sharing within NATO, recognizing that Europe must take greater responsibility for its own defense. Poland is proud to set an example. We are a NATO leader in defense spending, reaching nearly 5% of GDP. We have invested a lot in the American-made weapons systems by signing 128 contracts for over $60 billion US. We recognize a significant development potential and mutual benefits arising from further development towards supporting Polish-American joint venture initiatives and service capabilities such as maintenance, repair, and overhaul. We are grateful for the US military presence in Poland, through the deployment of troops and the most advanced weapon systems, because it's a real contribution to strengthening our territory and our borders. This vital commitment provides Polish society with a strong sense of security and serves as an effective deterrence. Mr. Secretary, I'm confident that we share the same value and the same goals. Together, we want to leverage our partnership on the next level and continue strengthening our enduring economic and military ties. Based on common experience, we see the importance of further cooperation not only in the areas of security, but also in the fields of development, research, and the new technologies. An example of which will be the participation of Polish astronaut Sławomir Znański in the American space mission. The great statesman Abraham Lincoln said, "The dogmas of quiet paths are inadequate to the storm we present. I'm confident that together with the United States of America, we can overcome every challenge and confront every threat." Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, America.
Very well said. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. We're leaving now. Thank you, Press. We're done. Thank you. We're leaving now. Thank you, Press. Thank you. We're leaving.
All right, we take you away from the Pentagon now to Canada, where King Charles and Queen Camilla are visiting Royal Canadians there. The arrival happening at the Senate of Canada building. They are receiving full military honors, including the Royal Salute, a 100-person Guard of Honor, and as well as a band and a 21-gun salute. Let's go ahead and listen in.
There's no audio.
No audio? Okay. Well, we do know that at 11 o'clock he is to make a speech from the throne. The king will open up the 45th Parliament of Canada and deliver that speech from the throne. It opens every new session of Parliament. We do understand this is his third visit to Canada, making such a speech. And
There he is right there.
There he is, marching along with one escort there right with him. Can we just see if there's anything to listen to, Carlene?
Still no audio.
No audio? All right. Well, because his speech is not going to happen until 11 o'clock, but it is always fun to just see the fanfare and how they greet royalty. Special visit from the UK. We do know that King Charles came out with his diagnosis, his cancer diagnosis, several weeks ago. He was very open about that. He was in the hospital for a time, but it does look like he is able to obviously travel a bit here. So we did see him arrive yesterday on the tarmac at the airport in Ottawa with Queen Camilla, and now he stands there to receive his flowers, if you will, in order to, or before he opens up that 45th Parliament. The salute now beginning with the full military honors.
There's no audio.
And still no audio. That's too bad. I'd like to hear.
I would too.
The band and all the pomp and circumstance there. But we do know
NBC might have an issue with the
audio.
With the audio, I'll try
Okay.
and find another feed that has one.
All right, so while she does that, we are just looking in here, a live picture from Canada with the arrival of King Charles to present and open up the Senate of Canada right there at the building. We know close to noon there is going to be a wreath-laying ceremony at the National War Memorial, and British royalty will pay their respects to Canada's fallen and mark the 25th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, that serving as a focal point for Canadians, 116,000 of them who've given their lives in service to their country. Of course, we had President Trump at our own memorial service yesterday at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. King Charles just stepped on the pedestal there for a few moments. And now we will watch him continue his, you can see Queen Camilla escorting him, or by his right side, escorted by Canadian royalty and leaders, looking like they are about to enter the Senate of Canada building. So looks like things are running right on time out of Ottawa, Canada. A beautiful, solid government-looking building there. And we'll see if we can bring that speech to you as it happens, potentially.
Potentially.
Well,
there seems to be an audio issue because there seems to be an audio issue.
All
Put
right.
it like that.
All right. That's not on the Live Impact studio.
No,
just so
that's
you
on
know,
NBC for
friends.
sure.
Okay. Just so you know. But at least we got to take a peek.
Yeah.
And evidently King Charles is...
He was there. He was meeting with crowds before we took the shot up. You could see him, shaking hands.
Yeah,
and
so
the whole nine.
yeah, he's got a little pep in
Now
his
we got
step.
audio.
All right. We have audio inside. We didn't have it outside.
Yes.
Is that what's happening?
There's a bunch of chitter chatter.
All right, well, let's...
between leaders.
All right,
looks
let's
like.
listen. That's always kind of fun to take a peek in. Let's go ahead and listen in here on Live Impact News. that was fun, being a fly on the wall inside the building for the Senate of Canada as we await King Charles to go up to the throne and make his speech. So we are awaiting a couple of other press conferences. Just to let you know, the Karen Reed retrial is back in session this week, but they are currently at a sidebar as they enter their 6th week. We know the prosecution is hoping to rest their case later on this week. But if you are interested in that house market conversation I had with David Hoffman, local realtor in the Charlotte area, let's just go ahead and continue that while we await some live press conferences here. The Charlotte Metro, or there's some neighborhoods more than others?
You know, some neighborhoods are more popular, you know, closer into the more popular areas, the shopping, the dining. Obviously, schools have a big play in all of this, but also new construction is very popular.
Yes.
People are willing to pay a premium for new construction, and they're willing to take the high rate, A, because they can have it their way, they can build it the way they want, and they don't have to do any renovations, and B, they feel like they have 6 months to a year to hopefully not only save money and sell their home, but hopefully hope that rates will come down.
All right, if we're having someone watch that, you know, one of those people on the fence thinking about buying a home, what should they be thinking about?
So the good news for buyers is if they don't mind getting their elbows a little dirty, rolling their sleeves up, there's a lot of sweat equity out there.
Mm-hmm.
$1 million home could be had for $850. A $500,000 home could be picked up around $400. There's a 10 to 25% potential discount on the home that has been sitting that might need a little bit of upgrades. It's in good shape, Jane. So if the buyer doesn't mind just making improvements as they go, they can get a great steal right now. And the seller has a lot of equity, so if they put pride aside, they can still sell at a premium.
Okay, and so how do you know if something is sweat equity worthy?
Yeah, so everyone should have a great broker that they trust in the market, and they should ask their broker if there's more actives or pendings. You want to see more pendings and actives. That's a healthy community where there's more under contract than on the market.
Yeah.
But you also want to ask what prices have been doing over the last 3 years. What happened during the pandemic, all those inflated prices, those were not real. But what happened in 23, 24, those 2 years, that's what you want to watch, and you want to see if prices are lower. You want prices to be lower than there.
All right.
They're coming back down.
Oh, okay. That's, I mean, yeah, any other economic clarity that we need to think about? All right, I want to bring you some breaking news right now. There is a press conference out of England. Yesterday, you might have heard a car crashed into a crowd at Liverpool Premier League parade, into a crowd of celebrants. It looks like authorities are meeting for this morning's press conference and getting everybody caught up. Let's go to that here on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Partner agencies in the months ahead of the potential parade. And a robust traffic management plan was in place, which included a number of local authority road closures throughout the route and the city centre. This included Water Street, which was closed to traffic. It is believed the driver of the Ford Galaxy car involved in this incident was able to follow an ambulance onto Water Street after the roadblock was temporarily lifted, so that the ambulance crew could attend to a member of the public who was having a suspected heart attack. As with many large events, with event organisers, we planned for all contingencies, and this included the implementation of road closures to protect pedestrians, and an armed policing presence was also in place throughout the day. There was no intelligence to suggest an incident of this nature would take place, and as we've previously stated, the incident is not being treated as terrorism. An extensive investigation into the precise circumstances of the incident is ongoing, and we continue to ask people not to speculate on the circumstances surrounding the incident and refrain from sharing distressing content online. I have no doubt regarding the impact that this appalling incident has had on those who are injured, their family and friends, and for those who witnessed the incident unfolding in front of them. It is so heartening to hear that the public has also recognised the human impact on our attending officers, staff and other emergency service colleagues from North West Ambulance Service and Merseyside Fire and Rescue. And I want to personally thank the public for their support of first responders who were on scene in a matter of seconds. Following the incident yesterday, I can confirm on behalf of the National Health Service that we are aware of 50 people who were treated at hospital for ongoing treatment. Of those, 11 remain in hospital for ongoing treatment. They are all in a stable condition, and I am pleased to say that they appear to be recovering well. I want to take the opportunity to pay tribute to the brave members of the emergency services who were on the scene of yesterday's incident within a matter of seconds. Following such a shocking incident, they immediately ran towards an extremely uncertain and potentially dangerous situation in an effort to protect members of the public and fellow emergency responders from harm. Merseyside Police continues to work with other emergency services, Liverpool City Council, Liverpool City Combined Regional Authority, local hospitals and health providers, and Liverpool Football Club, collectively in response to this incident. An extensive investigation into the precise circumstances of the incident is ongoing, and we continue to ask people not to speculate on the circumstances surrounding the incident and refrain from sharing distressing content online. Information, including video footage, can be passed via the Merseyside Police Major Incident Police portal, and all details are available on our website. Anyone with information or footage should contact Merseyside Police social media desk via X at MERPOLCC or on Facebook, Merseyside Police Contact Centre, or call 101. Alternatively, contact the independent charity Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111 or via their website. I'm now going to hand over to Detective Chief Superintendent Karen Jaundrell, who will update on the investigation.
Thank you. My thoughts are with all those injured in this awful incident, their families and friends, and everyone who has been affected. Like us, many of you will still be coming to terms with what was a harrowing end to a day of celebration. I want to reassure the public of Merseyside that detectives are making significant progress as we seek to establish the full circumstances that led to this awful incident and bring the person responsible to justice. We have arrested a 53-year-old man from West Derby on suspicion of attempted murder, dangerous driving offences and driving whilst unfit through drugs. He remains in custody where he is being interviewed. We have a total of 65 confirmed casualties, many of whom required hospital treatment, and our officers and family liaison officers are providing specialist support to a large number of these victims. Further work is ongoing to identify other people affected, and we will continue to support these individuals in the days and weeks to come. Due to the number of victims in this case, we have received assistance from our neighbouring forces, for which we are extremely grateful. Our detectives are speaking to any witnesses, including those injured, witnesses at the scene and emergency responders, as we seek to get a full picture of exactly what happened. In addition, extensive CCTV inquiries are being carried out across the city to establish the movements of the car, a Ford Galaxy, before the incident took place. We have already had an incredible response from many of those who were there last night. I thank them for their cooperation and support with our investigation, and I would encourage anyone who has not yet contacted the police who may have information on this incident to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are watching live there, a press conference from Liverpool authorities after a driver, 53-year-old from the Liverpool area, drove into a crowd as a Liverpool soccer team or football club has won, and they were celebrating with a parade. Real terrible situation there. So investigation continuing into that driver, but they did point out that they are not treating it as a terrorist attack. All right, let's go back to a look at our weather, because it is just downright miserable here. So if you haven't noticed outside, it is gray, gloomy, rainy, wet, all of the things. Becca Birdsall back here in the Live Impact studio, letting us know what we need to know, Becca.
Yeah, cold and damp. And you know what? The rain is really starting to pick up here around the metro, especially over towards southwest Mecklenburg County. And this is what we can expect. Pretty much just waves of showers, some of which could be heavy at times. Of course, it is cold, so you'll also want to grab a jacket and a sweater, certainly that rain gear as you step outdoors. So I want to first show you this live view that we have over towards our Dallas camera. It's basically 1,450 feet up in the air, but it is just sitting in a deck of clouds. And that visibility is greatly reduced right now, especially over towards Gastonia, where they are starting to see some of the heaviest downpours. This is, like I mentioned, starting to drift up to the east over towards Mecklenburg County, but Mecklenburg County now down to about 2.5 miles. Wadesboro also down to 1.5. So exercise some caution and allow yourself plenty of extra time as you do head outdoors this morning. Today is going to feature widespread rainfall, pretty much start to finish. It is also going to be a cool day, chilly even. Most of us are going to be staying in the 50s and lower 60s for today. Good news is, at least in this forecast, not expecting any thunderstorms, at least for today. So Doppler radar, we've got pretty much shower activity from the foothills down into the Piedmont and the Sandhills, and that heavier band of rain that I was mentioning that is starting to push up towards the southern portion of Mecklenburg County is now impacting Lake Wylie down into South Charlotte, all the way drifting up to the north over towards Gastonia. So this is definitely pockets of the heavier bands that we have been mentioning. Again, no lightning is expected with this system, but this is going to pass over through the metro within the next half hour. Then just down to the south of it, Chester County also getting in on a good downpour there as that continues to move off to the east. A little bit more scattered activity over towards Albemarle, Ansonville, Wadesboro, pushing all the way through Rockingham. And of course, we've been seeing pretty consistent rain since the morning hours, and some of us already picked up a quarter to half an inch of rain, and we've got probably another inch of rainfall to go through, at least for some of our most southern counties. So surface map, low pressure system sitting off to the west. This is basically what's driving in all of that moisture across the southeast. Even some strong thunderstorms, especially moving out of Mississippi into Alabama now. And this is the energy that's going to be heading across the southeast and in our direction over the next several days. So today is wet, but tomorrow is also going to have rain chances, and will likely continue those rain chances through the end of the work week. Today we were approaching a record cold high. We reached our high temperature today around midnight, and it was 61 degrees. We were 1 degree shy from tying that record cold high of 60 back in 1901. That is a century-old record that we did not break, but we certainly got close to it. Outside now, 57 in Charlotte, 59 in Charlotte, 55 in Chester, 48 over in Boone. We may see these temperatures fluctuate about a degree or two as we approach the afternoon hours, but this is where we're pretty much going to stay for the majority of the day. We're also going to hang on to the low clouds and fogginess through the nighttime hours, and likely very well into your Wednesday morning to start off the day. So for today, clouds, rain, cooler temperatures. That's all we've got in the forecast, but we do have some changes on the way. Why we are so chilly is that Carolina wedge. It's that high pressure system sitting up to the northeast that is just locking us in with cool air, moisture, and clouds. So this will continue for the rest of today, but you'll notice that low pressure system brings in a warm front by tomorrow afternoon. That means it's going to erode the wedge. We're going to see temperatures be warming up into the upper 70s and a little bit of sun peeking out, especially closer to around 4 or 5 o'clock on your Wednesday afternoon. So this could lead to a couple of thunderstorms in and around the area. So let's time out this rain for you. Futurecast showing waves of showers, some of which could be heavier at times throughout the day. Another band will come late tonight through the early portion of your Wednesday. But notice this really starts to pull off by daybreak on your Wednesday, so it will be damp and foggy, but most of that rainfall will have pulled off. Wedge will erode late afternoon. Again, a few thunderstorms will be possible during those evening hours, but very hit or miss. Only a few of us will likely get on those. By the time we get to Thursday, another round of showers and storms come through, and this is as our next cold front starts to move along and will likely linger those rain chances between Thursday and Friday, potentially even having the chance to see some stronger storms. And we'll have that chance starting tomorrow. A couple of thunderstorms that could produce some gusty winds. That's going to be the main concern. Again, likely better concern, a better chance for severe storms come Thursday and Friday. For now, rain chances, they peak today. They're the highest today, 100% chance by Wednesday, 20%, and then slowly drifting up by Thursday and Friday to about a 40 to 60% chance. Again, as that next front starts to move along and we see scattered thunderstorms during those afternoon and evening hours. Highs today, lower 60s. Tomorrow we get to the upper 70s and near 80 by Thursday. And that's where we'll kind of hang out, upper 70s to lower 80s as we end out the work week. So 7-day forecast, got a wet day today, not as wet tomorrow, but still going to have a chance to see some downpours and then more scattered activity Thursday and Friday before we finally dry off for this weekend. Sunshine, lower 80s, going to feel a little bit more like the end of May. And so if you didn't really get a chance to hit the pool for Memorial Day,
No, it's too. It was too great.
Okay, I went to the hot tub.
You went to the hot tub.
I did. There was a
Okay.
whole group of us, and instead of going in the pool, we were all in the hot tub yesterday. And it was actually very relaxing. Yeah, it's a lot
Yeah?
of fun. Yes.
Well,
But
for you.
It's
Yeah.
normally the opposite. You're normally getting a lot of sun for Memorial Day.
Sure.
So it was quite the opposite.
Interesting.
That's hot tub action.
Hot tub. Hot tub.
Yeah, where are you living?
I was like, we need to go over
gotta
to
go to
Becca's
Becca's.
and get in this hot tub.
Y'all are funny.
Becca Birdsall, thank you again for
you.
joining
Of
us today. We got to keep you updated with weather. It's changing. It's moving in. This is just a soaker of a day. But we're going to get through
It'll
it.
get better.
We're going to get
It'll
through
get
it
better.
together.
It'll be pool weather, not hot tub weather.
Yes, pool weather this weekend. Something to look forward to entering June. Thanks, Becca. All right, bring you back out here now into the Live Impact studio at 10:36 on Tuesday morning as you head back to work this morning. So are some of the high-profile trials across the country. By the way, Sean Diddy trial, that resumes today, later this afternoon, our time, but right now, not too much out of New York. We are going to go back to Massachusetts. This is the Karen Reed retrial entering its 6th week. If you are just joining us here on Tuesday morning, a long holiday break, and now looks like they're going to a sidebar. Okay. All right. We will skip that for now and take you out to Canada. King Charles now on the throne, where he is expected to open up the 45th Parliament, their Senate session in Canada, and he is expected to make a speech at some point. But let's go ahead and listen in here live on WCNC Plus. We appreciate you.
Commons and acquaint the House that it is the pleasure of His Majesty the King that they attend him immediately in the Senate chamber. Huissier du bâton noir, rendez-vous à la Chambre des communes et informez-la que c'est le plaisir de Sa Majesté le Roi que les communes se rendent immédiatement auprès de lui dans la salle du Sénat.
looking and listening to live King Charles being entertained by a violin player there. He is expected to make a speech from the throne at 11 o'clock, and he will open up the 45th Parliament of Canada. In the meantime, a lot of pre-ceremony and entertainment happening before the speech. So let's go ahead and take you back out to Dedham, Massachusetts. It does look like our Karen Reed retrial resuming now, with the prosecution calling its final witness. This is crash reconstruction expert Dr. Judson Welcher. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+.
The human body is governed by the same laws of physics, just like the bridge. Obviously, it's made of a lot of different materials, but in a human body, my beams are bones. My cables are the muscles and ligaments. Different material properties, but everything's governed by the laws of physics and principles of engineering. So I'm looking at how physical forces, the outside of the car, for when people are inside the car, seat belts, airbags. The first seat belt was patented by an engineer. It's engineers who quantify the force of the crash and what kind of injury damage there is to the body. So it is force that causes damage like a fracture. And so we're looking at how the physical forces are applied to the body and what that means in terms of what happens to the body.
Dr. Welcher, I want to ask you a little bit about how you became a biomechanical engineer and an accident reconstructionist. Can you tell us?
Sure. So when I was getting ready to go to college, my father, who was a physician, said, whatever you do, do not go to medical school. Because I was getting ready to go to medical school. So this was 39 years ago, I believe. 35 years ago. 39 years ago. He said, it's just not worth it. So I said, okay. So then I entered into the mechanical engineering. I grew up riding motorcycles, taking things apart, frequently pissing my parents off when I couldn't put it back together. But I like taking things apart and figuring out how things worked. So I went to university and got my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. From there, I happened to be at a Thursday meeting of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. A group came in from a company that did this type of work, and they showed some examples of how you apply engineering concepts that you learn in mechanical engineering to the human body. And so I was like, man, that's a great job. That's the perfect mix of engineering that I have and my desire, to learn the medical side of things as well without becoming a doctor. So I talked to them. I actually applied to the company and was ultimately hired as a biomechanical engineer.
How long did you continue as a biomechanical engineer until you went back to school?
So I actually, very quickly after I started the job, I took a human anatomy class at a community college. I quickly realized that wasn't enough. And so in around 1993, I went to the USC Medical School and enrolled through what's called concurrent enrollment, which means you can take the class, but you're not actually in medical school. It's a medical school class. But I took gross human anatomy. So it was me and 160 or so other doctors. I took the same human anatomy that first year medical students at USC took. So it began in 1993.
Did you continue to work as you pursued your higher education?
I ultimately started my own company, continued to work, continued to do research, had a wonderful opportunity to have 2 beautiful children, and continue to this day.
Tell us a little bit about the company you started and when.
Sure. So in about October of 1994, I started my own company. Me and the guy who was my immediate supervisor said, hey, we can do this better. We can do more research, more testing. And so we started our own company.
What kind of company was it?
It was an accident reconstruction and biomechanical engineering company. We also early on did a bunch of testing and design work for amusement park rides. The same concepts for car crashes applies to roller coasters, basically anything. So we worked and had some contracts on improving ride safety. And I was also on the ASTM committee that looked at amusement park ride designs.
Did that company grow from 2 people?
Correct. We took it from 2 to about 25 people, and then we ultimately sold it in right around January 1st of 2022.
Before 2022, did you obtain a master's degree?
I did.
And what was that in, and where was that from?
So again, I was working full-time. Actually, while I was doing my master's degree, I was also teaching classes at Texas A&M through their law enforcement training division. So it was extension classes. But I ultimately completed my master's thesis in December of 2001. That was from USC, University of Southern California, and I received my master's degree in biomedical engineering. I wrote my thesis. It was basically on automotive seat design, but it was titled Whiplash-Associated Disorders, Related Anatomy, Biomechanics of Injury, and the Relationship Between Injury Potential and Automotive Seat Design.
Excuse me, Your Honor, if I may, pardon the interruption. If Dr. Welch reads from his report, which I think he just did, can we know when he's doing that?
Sure. Dr. Welcher asked me if he could refer to his resume, and I said yes. So if you read, just let us know.
Thank you. And it's my resume, not my report.
Your resume, did I say report?
No, you did. He said report.
Yeah, no, it's his resume.
You share with us that your company continued to grow until you ultimately sold it in 2022. During that time, did you continue to pursue higher education after you obtained your master's degree?
I did. So again, ever since 1993, I've been slowly pursuing higher education, both obtaining my master's degree as well as my PhD. During that time frame, I also published 20 peer-reviewed scientific publications. I taught for 5 years at Texas A&M and served as a peer reviewer for both the Society of Automotive Engineers and for a short period on the Archives of Physical Medicine. So I was working and running a company with my co-creator, as well as teaching, conducting research, publishing, also while going to school part-time.
Take us to 2011. Were you still pursuing education at the University of Southern California?
I was.
And what occurred? What did you achieve in 2011?
So in August of 2011, I finally obtained my PhD in biomedical engineering. I wrote my dissertation, reading from my resume, titled Development, Validation, and Testing of a New Sensor Array for Intra-Articular Pressure Measurement, In Vitro Human Lumbar Spine, Intra-Articular Facet Testing, which is a lot of big words to say. I was testing cadaver spines, looking at the loads inside the spines associated with various motions of the spine.
Did you achieve your PhD in biomechanical engineering?
It's actually in biomedical engineering. Biomechanics is within the field of biomedical engineering.
So you have a PhD in biomedical engineering?
Correct.
You mentioned that you have published many articles. Have there been articles that you have published that are relevant to some of the subjects that you're going to talk about during your testimony?
I mean, I have a number of, again, peer-reviewed scientific publications. Peer review just means you submit it to a journal and they have other people review it, give you comments, your peers in the field. I do believe there are a number of them that could certainly be relevant to both the physics and, for example, pedestrian injuries.
If I could mention a few. You wrote an article on sideswipe collision dynamics. What's sideswipe collision dynamics?
So I was actually an invited speaker at the World Congress, or sorry, not the World Congress, the World Reconstruction Expedition. They asked me to give a presentation on the theory, science, and mathematics behind sideswipe or side impact collisions. That would include side collisions, glancing collisions, shallow angle impacts such as like a corner of a bumper goes into the side of a car, any kind of glancing or clipping type impact.
Similarly, in many of the articles that you wrote, is one of them about methods for quantifying the impact severity of low-speed side impacts at varying angles?
It is.
Tell us a little bit what that
So that was a Society of Automotive Engineers paper, again, another peer-reviewed paper that we worked on. it was kind of an extension or continuation of all that research, where we just looked at the physics and the mathematics, basically the reconstruction of glancing or sideswipe type impacts.
Similarly, methods for quantifying the impact severity of low-speed side impacts at varying angles. Is that similar to the other papers, or was that different?
Yeah, I thought that was the same one.
If I can continue, another article or publication that you wrote, Occupant Kinematics and Loading in Low-Speed Lateral Impacts. What does that mean?
So, in the course of my career, I've done probably 12 to maybe 1,300 actual crash tests. I've crashed everything from skateboards, mopeds, up to trains, motorhomes, and ambulances. I've conducted, relative to this case, probably or been involved with 50 to maybe 70 pedestrian impact tests. So the low-speed side impact one is we actually put human volunteers in side impact collisions, and what we did is we had accelerometers, which are things that measure acceleration. If you had physics or memory, Newton told us force equals mass times acceleration. So knowing the acceleration of something, you can get an idea of how much force is applied to it. So we have various sensors on the body, we have various sensors on the car for the reconstruction aspects of it. So that study was the biomechanics portion, and the first paper you read about the reconstruction was the reconstruction portion. So the first paper you discussed was everything outside the car, then we looked at how the forces applied to those impacts to people inside the car.
Have you had a lot of publications and studies about the force applied to people outside of a car?
I don't know if I'd say a lot, but I was an invited lecturer to the Accident Reconstruction and Collision Safety Institute conference, where I specifically gave a paper and a series, or basically a lecture, on what's called pedestrian impact biomechanics, which was exactly as the name implies, what happens to pedestrians when they're impacted predominantly by cars and vehicles.
How much of your work involves pedestrian impacts?
Probably maybe 10%, 5 to 10%. Most of it's car to cars.
Biomechanics of low-speed impacts. Is that another paper that you wrote?
That is a paper I wrote.
I don't want to read all of your papers and all of your publications, but on a different topic, did you write a paper on the study of the measurement of Generation 2 Toyota event data recorders and low-speed side impacts?
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about what measurement of event data means in this article?
So, Toyotas, newer Toyotas particularly, have two types of electronic equipment on board that can record crashes. There is what's referred to as an event data recorder, or EDR. It's somewhat commonly referred to as a black box. That's not exactly right, but it's close. And then there's a secondary system, which is really more closely tied to maintenance. That's called TechStream, but it will pick up data that you can frequently relate back to various events. So that particular paper was looking at the event data recorder data in Toyotas.
We'll get more into that subject later, but is event data recorders a subject that you're well schooled at?
Yes.
In addition to the papers that you've written, have you continued through the years and after becoming a PhD, your research in this area, in these areas?
Correct. For example, every year we're part of a conference called SATI, which is our company, largely led by the engineer Christopher Furbus that we work with, has spearheaded us going out and conducting crash tests for that conference. For 10 years, we did a lot of the instrumentation and crash testing at the Accident Reconstruction and Collision Safety Institute conference. And then for a number of years, the company actually went down and did crash testing for what's referred to as the Spine Research Institute down in San Diego. So we've been hired by various professional organizations. We came out here once, the Massachusetts Association of Action Reconstructionists, I think I'm messing the name up, had a conference. We came out here, conducted crash tests for training other experts out here. We did all the instrumentation, the biomechanics of that crash testing.
In your research and testing, you have pages with dates of the different researches and testing you've done. There's over a dozen of the research and testing items and articles that deal with pedestrians. Is that a common topic in your research and testing?
Yes. So again, frequently at the conference we're doing pedestrian tests. The last Action Reconstruction Collision Safety Institute conference, there was a series of pedestrian crash tests run there. SATI 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, some pedestrian crash tests that were done there as well. So there are a number of instances on my resume where I have both attended class, and then I mentioned the one time where I gave an hour and a half long lecture on pedestrian injuries.
After you became a PhD or a doctor, do you continue your education and research?
Correct. I've always continued my education and research up until, I just got back from the Event Data or Action Reconstruction Collision Safety Institute EDR conference, or the Event Data Recorder Summit. My company, through my relationship with the founder of that summit, was a sponsor. So Aperture was actually a sponsor of that conference. We actually sponsored it the previous year as well. And also as part of that, I assisted one of the researchers in conducting, it's called front camera module testing for pedestrian impacts on Chrysler vehicles. Excuse me, General Motors vehicles.
As a biomedical engineer, are there any groups, organizations, or certifications that are important?
I think ACTAR is important. So ACTAR is an acronym. It's ACTAR, and that's short for the Accreditation Commission for Traffic Accident Reconstructionists. And so it's a bunch of...
You've been watching here on Live Impact News the Karen Reed retrial with the prosecution's last witness, Dr. Judson Welcher, as they are evidently establishing his credibility to be such an expert. There on the bottom right-hand corner, King Charles getting ready to speak to the Parliament in Canada to open up their 45th session. So we'll leave you here. In the meantime, Charlotte Today is coming up next at 11. Have a great day.